Hey everyone, Joe here. Mixing vocals is a common source of pain for a lot of mixers. Most songs have them, and it can be difficult to get them to sit right in the mix. Vocals are very human and dynamic, and even the subtle changes can make a big difference to how they sound. Today I'm going to show you how you can get a professional and smooth sounding vocal mix just using stock plugins. There's a bit of a debate on if you can get away with just using stock plugins to get a professional mix, or if you need to spend the extra money on third-party plugins. I do tend to lean towards stock plugins. There are a couple of third-party plugins that I do like to use, but the bottom line is yes, you can definitely get a pro mix just using the stock plugins. And I'm going to show you some of the best ones that Pro Tools has to offer for mixing vocals. The last one I'm going to show you is really great at getting your workflow sped up and giving a sense of cohesiveness to the whole mix. I'm going to leave that till last because it will become more apparent why it's so useful at the end once you've seen the others. I'm going to go through the features of each plugin and then show you what they sound like in action. Let's get started. Now to kick things off, we've got the EQ3 7-band, the old faithful EQ that comes with Pro Tools. It is a fantastic EQ, and especially with EQs, you'll find that spending the extra money is not normally worth it. If there are certain features that you find to be missing, or you're looking to emulate a specific type of old hardware EQ, then maybe. But the 7-band that comes with Pro Tools pretty much does everything you need. So we've got input and output gain. We've got a high pass and low pass filter built in that has 4 different Q values. A lot of even the third-party plugins have far fewer Q values to use on the filters. Sometimes they only have 1. And then we've got 5 more EQ bands for bell curves or for shelving at the top and bottom. Normally I find that 7 bands is pretty much enough for any track that I'm going to be EQing. You can obviously use 2 of these if you want to save the cuts for before the compression and the boosts for after, which I often do. Or if you just need extra bands, but normally 7 does the job. You've also even got a phase shift button, which is very useful. I sometimes just use the plugin for the phase shift. So let's hear what it sounds like in action. I've got a nice rock vocal here.
Search your soul for answers and then tell me what you find.
So normally I'd roll in
Can't take the long road if you choose to walk
a high pass filter to cut off those muddy lows.
Just take your chances with whatever may seem real. Then open up your mind.
Too much there. Maybe around 90.
Your problems manifest
And I'm going to cut that right off.
More than just a joke.
18 dB per octave.
Your vision's growing darker because
now what I love
you're
about
about
this
to choke.
plugin
When it
is
slips
the
from
fact that
underneath
you can
know
drag them
that you
around, and then to
should
change
use
the
your
cue,
head. But
you can
still
drag
stains your feet from
on the band
walking
itself
on a
rather than having to
razor's
mess
edge.
around with
I know
the
you
knobs.
crave to
Some EQs have this
see
feature,
beyond
a lot of them actually don't. A lot of the Waves ones don't have this, so that's one of the main reasons why I stick with the 7-band. It just speeds up the workflow.
Then make the call.
Very quick to just make little changes to the cue. Let's take a bit of that low mid and brighten it up a little bit at the top. Now our second plugin is the BF76. It's a more or less faithful representation of the old 1176 hardware compressor. It's quite nice having a replica of a hardware built in. Normally you don't get that with a lot of DAWs, but this is a very popular one. It can be quite harsh. It's got a very fast attack and release. It can be very useful on rock vocals, rap sometimes as well. Real life example, And the Truth Will Set You Free by Dave Kilminster. If you hit that up on Spotify, all of the vocals were recorded through a 1176 compressor, the hardware version. So you hear sort of what it sounds like on there. But we're going to have a listen to this replication now. But first, let's have a look at the controls. You've got the input, how much audio is
Search your soul for answers
going
and then
into
tell
the
me what
compressor.
you find.
So
You
the
can't
more you
take the
push
long
it,
road if you
the harder
choose
it's
to
going to
walk
get
it
compressed.
blind. Just take your
And then
chances with whatever
you can
may
dial
seem
back
real.
the output
Open
to make
your
up for it.
mind with
So
just an
if we
iota of
push
zeal.
push some vocals in.
Manifest as something more than just
So
a
at the
joke.
peaks we're going down by about 3
Vision's
dB.
growing dark
And then you can use the output level to match
without
affecting the loudness. You've got 4 ratio options, 4 to 1, 8 to 1, 12 to 1 and 20 to 1. Normally stick with 4 for vocals. If you go 20 it starts sounding a bit over-compressed. You can also push all buttons in, which was a common technique back in the day with the hardware version for a really harsh compression, but yeah, we're going to stick with 4. And then you've got the attack and the release. They're actually backwards on the 11S76, so all the way to the top is the fastest attack, so it's going to come in really quickly, and all the way to the top is the fastest release, so it's going to come out really quickly as well. But we're going to dial it back.
For answers and then tell me what you find.
So it's nice and smooth. The third plugin I'm going to show you is Deverb, a fantastic reverb unit that comes built in with Pro Tools. There are 2 reverbs that come with it actually. You've got the air reverb as well. I prefer the Deverb. It has a couple fewer options, but I just find it's a lot more natural sounding, the reverb. So what have we got? We've got hall, church, plate, a couple of rooms, ambient, and a non-linear reverb. You've got 3 different sizes which you can adjust the decay of. It just automatically sets it to a longer decay for the larger sounding rooms. Pre-delay, of course, very important to have that on a reverb unit. You've got a diffusion knob which lets you set the thickness of the reverb. And then these 2 can be a little bit confusing. You've got a high filter cut and a low pass filter. Kind of sounds like they do the same thing, but they are slightly different. As far as I can tell, the low pass filter completely cuts off the top end of the reverb, similarly to if we were looking at it on an EQ, it would look something like that, but that's only affecting the reverb tail itself, not the original signal. And then the high frequency cut is a little bit more subtle, really. So let's have a listen to what this reverb sounds like. I've put it directly on the track, and I'm going to be using the wet-dry signal to dial in the amount of reverb. Normally I'd use an auxiliary bus, but just for demonstration purposes I'll put it directly on the track. So let's have a listen. I'll dial it up quite high just so you can hear what it's doing.
Search your soul for answers and then tell me what you find. You can't take the long road if you choose to walk it blind. Just take your chances with whatever may seem real. Then open up your mind with just an iota of zeal. Your problems manifest as something more than just a joke. Your vision's growing darker because you're about to choke. So
you've got a few different options there. We are going to go for a plate. I like to use a plate on vocals. Just dial it back a little bit.
You can't take the long road if you choose to walk it blind.
Like quite a nice long tail for this song. I'm going to give it a bit of pre-delay for a more roomy kind of sound. Let's cut off some of that top end. And we just got a little bit of ambience to it. The next plugin I want to show you is a de-esser. This is vital for vocal mixing. I use it on pretty much every vocal mix in varying levels. It's just to reduce some of the harshness of the sibilants, the S sounds on the vocals. And if you listen to this particular section,
blood still stains your feet from walking up.
There's a lot of and it's quite harsh. So we can use the de-esser to compress. It's basically a multi-band compressor. It compresses the audio just in a certain frequency range, so that high frequency range where the S sounds are very harsh. So the range will let you reduce the level by a certain amount. Say 4 dB. Let's focus in right there, a lot of S sounds. Just compare. It's a lot less harsh. It sounds a little bit odd, so make a couple of adjustments here. There are a couple of options here as well that you often don't even get with the third-party plugins. High frequency only makes sure that it really focuses just on reducing those high frequencies. rather than across the mids as well. And listen lets you hear what's actually being attenuated, which is very useful for finding out what exactly is happening. I'm going to go a bit higher there, and we don't need quite so much of it. Let's listen now.
Blood still stains your feet, 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 blood.
There we go, a lot less harsh. The fifth plugin I'm going to show you today is the Air Enhancer. This is a really useful plugin for adding harmonic saturation and adding extra high frequencies and low frequencies to your audio. It works really well on vocals, especially if you've found yourself mixing a little bit of a dull recording. It can really help brighten it up. And I overlooked this, especially when I started, and it was a bad idea because it is very useful. Let's go straight into listening to this one because it's easier just to hear what it's doing.
Search your soul for answers.
So you got the high gain,
tell me what you find. You can't take the long
which adds a little bit of
you choose to walk it blind.
top end to it,
Just take your chances with whatever
and the low
may
gain,
seem
of course,
real.
adds a little bit low
Open
into
up
it.
your mind with just an iota of zeal.
Just a little bit of warmth.
Your problems manifest as something more than just a joke.
Now, the thing with this plugin, it's not just an EQ. What it can do is use harmonic generation
Search your soul for answers and then tell me what you find.
to add extra harmonic frequencies depending on how you've set the gains. And this can be really useful again if you've got yourself a dull recording. Let's pretend we've got a dull recording. Just bring some of the top end down.
Search your soul for answers and then tell me what you find. You can't take the long road.
Okay. And then if we bring up that high gain a little bit,
Search your soul for answers and then tell me what you find. Your problems manifest
you can really brighten it up.
something more than just a joke. Your visions grow.
It does add a little bit of crunchiness to it, especially if you go quite high on the harmonic generation. So if you want a really smooth, clean vocal, it might not be the best plugin to use, but for certain applications, rock especially, it's really useful. Just use it sparingly. I've got two more plugins to show you. They're both super useful. I'm going to move over to the female vocal part of this song just to mix things up a bit. And also this part is quite an ambient section, so we're going to need some delay. So we're going to take a look at our sixth plugin, the Air Dynamic Delay. Again, there are a huge number of delay plugins on the market. They all do things slightly differently, but really you can get a load of different kinds of delays with the Air Dynamic Delay. You've got all the most important features. You can sync your delays to your click or use milliseconds. You've got feedback. You've got an EQ for the delay sound itself. You've got some modulation settings, and you can switch it to mono or stereo delays. Let's go straight in again and have a listen to what it sounds like.
Who are you to say what's right and wrong?
So we're going to sync that
Who's weak and strong,
to the click of the track. A little bit too much there.
I'm
Going to cut out a little bit the top end so it's not too harsh,
and
and to give it a bit more of a vintage feel. And some of the low end, normally do that to keep it from getting muddy. It sounds a little bit harsh on its own, but with the track it might be alright. Might need to make a couple of tweaks, but let's have a listen. Yeah, nice and smooth. And the final plugin I'm going to show you is so useful on any track really. It's the channel strip. I've used this so much in the past. It just gets everything in one place. You can put it on every single track, especially if you want to do a quick mix. It's got a gate and expander, compressor limiter, built-in sidechain, an EQ, filters. It's got most of what you need, and it just really helps speed up the workflow having everything in one place. So you've got the EQ, very similar to the 7-band EQ that we've seen before. It's practically the same thing, but it's just built into this channel strip. You've got a compressor with all the main functions. You've got the gate. Let's hear what it sounds like in action. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the chain and change the order that the audio is going through the plugins. So I like to start with going through the filters, the high pass and low pass filters, then through the compressor, then through the EQ, and then any kind of volume changes at the end. So we can do pretty much a full vocal mix with this, and then obviously you might want to put some de-essing or reverb or anything like that afterwards. But let's do a quick vocal mix with this.
Who are you to say what's right and wrong?
Cut out some of the low end.
Who's weak and strong before the storm?
Again, just want to get a little bit of that nasaliness out there.
And who am I to hold my breath while I sit?
It's a really nicely recorded vocal, so we don't need to do too much EQing really. And then again with the compression, I'm going to go for around a 4:1 ratio. Smooth it out a little bit with the knee.
And who am I to
We can go a little bit longer on the release for this vocal, and then match that gain reduction of about dB. We can get a bit of delay and reverb on there as well.
Who are you to say what's right and wrong? Who's weak
Nice.
and strong
Make a few changes
before the
when we're hearing it with the track. It doesn't need quite so much compression. I'm going to bring it down to maybe 3.5. Smooth out that knee a little bit more. And there we have it, 7 fantastic plugins that you can get great vocal mixes with just using the stuff that comes with Pro Tools. No messing around with extra licenses, no having to fork out for extra third-party plugins if you don't want to or you're not in the position to. Leave a comment below, let me know what your favourite stock plugin is to use on vocals, whether you use Pro Tools or if you use another DAW. And before you go, if you haven't already subscribed, don't forget to hit that subscribe button below because we've got videos like this coming out every single week. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.